And speaking of things that sound so drastic and so silly that nobody thinks they could ever happen, nukes, pandemic, digital ID, things like this. It's time to talk about the Flippy update. The robots are coming.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
That's right. The Flippy update is Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We used talking about Flippy to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world. Now there's nothing we can do about it. Today's Flippy update is coming from independent.co.uk. The headline, ESA, that's the European Space Agency, hires Leonardo to build robotic arm for Mars sample return mission. More space Flippies, folks.
What is there that Leo DiCaprio can't do?
He can do it all. The European Space Agency on Tuesday contracted European Industrial Consortium, Leonardo, to design, build, and test a sophisticated robotic arm intended to retrieve samples of Martian soil collected by NASA's Perseverance rover. So many things here. First of all, Industrial Consortium is definitely the category of company that would build a robot to take over the world. But if you'll notice, they're building and testing a robotic arm intended to retrieve samples of Martian soil collected by NASA's Perseverance rover. So Perseverance is collecting the soil samples, and ESA, they're making some sort of mugging robot to go mug the NASA rover and steal the soil samples.
This is a pretty gnarly looking arm too, with the photo at the top. It's
pretty serious. It's a serious robot, man.
Yeah, it looks like a kind of a praying mantis arm or something.
Mm-hmm. Very sleek, very sexy. The Mars sample return mission, a collaboration between ESA and NASA, is already underway, with NASA's rover recently drilling the 8th of an eventual 38 samples of Martian rock and soil. ESA is developing another small rover to retrieve the samples and place them in an ascent vehicle that will carry the samples into orbit for retrieval and shipping back to Earth via the ESA Earth Return Orbiter. I think this is interesting. They did not have a plan for getting the samples back to Earth when they took the samples from the NASA rover. So they're just now figuring out how to get the samples back. But ESA's small rover, the Sample Fetch rover, needs a sensitive and articulate robotic arm with which to grasp, collect, and transfer the Mars samples once on Mars. Gons, we don't need an American burger flipping arm. We need a sensitive, articulate arm with a vocabulary and a royal accent in order to carefully handle these samples. Quote, handling the precious Martian samples and getting them ready for delivery on an extraordinary trip from Mars to Earth is an amazing feat, ESA Director of Human and Robotic Exploration, David Parker, said in a statement. Quote, the sample transfer arm will be the helping hand that will take planetary science to a new level. The 2.5 meter long sample transfer arm will possess 7 degrees of freedom of movement. 7 degrees of freedom, mimicking a human arm with shoulder, elbow, wrist joints, according to an ESA announcement. And it kind of goes on. It is intended to be largely autonomous, using 2 cameras and sensors to guide itself in removing tubes of sampled material from the Perseverance rover, placing them on the ground, picking them back up, placing them in a container on the ascent vehicle, and closing the lid. The Leonardo Consortium, charged by ESA with making such a facile robotic arm a reality, includes companies from Spain, France, Romania, Denmark, Greece, Switzerland, and the Czech Republic. The Mars sample return mission aims to return the samples taken by Perseverance to Earth by 2033, where Earth-based labs can examine the material in detail to learn more about the past conditions on Mars and possibly answer questions of whether the red planet ever supported life.
Aliens.
So this is a long mission, man. It's going to take them 10 years to go get those samples and bring them back. Of course, 2033, surprise, surprise, that number pops up again. It's all part of the plan, baby. But I do like the fact that they're like, no, we need a sophisticated robot, an articulate robot, a sensitive robot to go get these samples. So as we see many times when it comes to space robot arms, especially playing out the geopolitical strife here on Earth up in space, you've got all of the EU basically coming together to help NASA, help the US. Look, we got up there, we took the samples, but we need the EU to get the samples back. Again, sort of solidifying this relationship in the West between US and the Europe, specifically NATO, of course, showing a bit of strength and collaboration to find our new home as humans. So the robots can just kind of keep Earth for themselves.
Very interesting. Lots of robot arms up there. More robot arms. The more robot arms are in kitchens here, the more they will be in, I guess, up there.
We are approaching more robot arms in space than humans, which isn't saying much, of course, but
not that many people up there.
Still pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. I'm interested to see what happens with all these arms. Eventually, it's just going to be one big over-the-top arm wrestling contest between robots, and
I know
all the
it'll be one big robot arm war, as it is written, so it shall be.